Hello, my name is Davis and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all things tech. And today we are going to be talking about my year with the iPhone 15 Pro Max. The highs, the lows, the very lows, and more. And more importantly, we will discuss what I would like to see changed and improved with the iPhone 16 Pro that is due to be unveiled any day now. So buckle up because I have some very strong thoughts about this. But before we do, here is a word from today's sponsor. Do you want the feel of a naked phone, but want the peace of mind of using protection? Well, me too, and the Ark Pulse case has been my perfect solution to this problem over the past year. This is the longest period of time that I have used a single case on my phone, because where a normal case would be on its last legs by now, since the Ark Pulse is made entirely of aluminium, while it is very light, structurally it is still holding up perfectly and actually looking better with use. Like a stainless steel watch or even the back of an old iPod, with use, this case actually starts to look better. As you can see on this gold example, you can see the patina begin to develop, uncovering some of that gorgeous silver underneath, giving it a really unique look. Okay, I hear what you're saying. You're concerned about drop protection because the phone is so exposed. But unless you are really clumsy and run over your phone regularly with your car, there is no need to be concerned, because I'm the sort of person who likes to drop their phone about 20 times a day, and my phone after a year looks fine. The aluminium frame and the rubber backing absorbs impacts with aplomb, and all of the main drop zones, including the corners and camera hump, are completely covered. And also, if you are the sort of person who likes to switch phone cases often, this is not a concern either, as the Pulse is held on with just friction. To take the case off, all you have to do is pull on the case, and with some force, it comes off for easy cleaning. If you check the Ark Pulse out using my link, you can save 10% off your case, and you can finally enjoy a case that allows you to have that lovely, pleasurable naked experience while still having protection. So let's get back to the phone. So it does feel a little bit crazy that we are already doing our long-term review of this phone, because it feels like that it was just yesterday when I got my hands on the iPhone 15 Pro Max on launch day, and it really was quite an exciting launch, because this was the phone that promised a lot and it introduced a lot of firsts for the iPhone line and even the entire smartphone industry in general. Not only was this the first consumer device to utilize a 3nm chip which promised blazing fast performance and improved efficiency, but we were also excited by the somewhat curved design compared to the 14 at least, for better ergonomics, and we were also amazed that this was the first mainstream phone that utilized titanium in its construction, which not only made the phone lighter, but also in theory stronger, although that wasn't to be. This was also the first iPhone that got rid of our beloved ringer switch that we'd been using since the handspring trio all of those decades ago, and replaced it with an action button. We were also especially excited by the new telephoto camera that utilized a tetraprism periscope-like technology. And finally, this was the iPhone that finally got rid of lightning and joined the rest of the developed world in utilizing USB-C. So was this the best iPhone launch ever? Well, not really, and in this video I will tell you why. One area that didn't disappoint though was the hardware design, because while it perhaps wasn't the most beautiful phone in the world, it is still a masterclass in design and engineering. As a tech reviewer, despite my preference of smaller phones, I do find it more useful to test the larger models, as these are the phones that usually gain all of the features that the brand has been working on, and is also the model that most people buy. And the slimmer bezel, when combined with the slightly curved titanium frame that's 20 grams lighter than the previous model, well, I think I said this in my earlier review of this phone, but it almost feels like a large phone that I could use with just one hand. It is actually almost comfortable to hold. Of course, the Ark Pulse case definitely helps with this impression, but if the next phone does grow in size like what some of the rumors are saying, then I might not be too happy about that. The ergonomics of the phone are also helped by the curved edges too, and while they aren't very curved like in earlier iPhones, they are enough to actually make the phone quite comfortable to hold as well. And in general, I believe that the hardware design of this phone is almost perfect. But one thing I still hate is the camera design. While it looks okay with the case on, when naked, it still looks like three awkward hot plates organized in what is quite a gruesome design, and it collects a lot of dust as well. I'm not a fan of this design at all. The amount that it rocks as well when you don't have a case is very annoying too. So the rumored horizontal bar style camera of the future iPhone Air model, similar to the Google Pixel, is a change that I am actually quite excited about. And if you were concerned with the rigidity of the 15 Pro Max model, then don't be, because not only did I do a very viral video of me trying to bend it back in the day, but after a year of hard use, it is still as straight as an arrow. Okay, so how have the other hardware features aged? The screen after a year is still one of the most beautiful screens that I have ever seen. However, it still does like to dim very quickly when you are using it outside when it's hot. And despite utilizing my always on display to the max, there's also no sign of burn-in, which is definitely very good. The dynamic island as well, while it is a lot larger a cutout than some other phones, because it is so useful now with all of the apps that are utilizing it, it's not something that annoys me anymore. However, you do need to stretch your thumb a lot to reach it. The speakers on this are still the best that I've heard on any phone. They are full and loud, relatively speaking of course. And how about the action button though? While at first I was very much against this decision and maybe it should have stayed a switch, but I have just loved how customizable it is. I've used it as a mute switch to open the camera and also as an orientation lock. But the problem is that it only does one thing at a time. So after changing it a lot, I have settled on it being an orientation lock, which you can set in the Shortcuts app. It would be really nice if you could set a secondary function by double pressing it or something like that. Although I do suspect that that is probably happening through a future iOS update. And now we come to what is quite possibly my favorite change, although it was something that I was very much against at first. And that is USB-C. My frustration with the switch to USB-C from Lightning was that design-wise, it was a bit of a move backwards. It was both a larger and more fragile port, and technically, it wasn't that much faster, as there was a USB 3-speed Lightning port as well that was criminally underutilized, as it only appeared on a couple generations of iPad Pro. On the upside though, the dream of being able to charge my iPhone with the same cable as my iPad and MacBook has simply been amazing. And also being able to use almost any USB-C accessory I want, including dongles, external SSDs, hard drives, keyboards, gaming controllers, and more has simply been fantastic. So I ate my words. The switch to USB-C has actually been great. What's also been pretty great is the camera. This is one of the most versatile camera systems that I have ever utilized, and the fact that it is something that I carry in my pocket all the time is simply astonishing. The zoom range is really good. I've loved using the 2x crop as well on the main sensor. It's really good for portraits, and the video quality as well is simply unmatched. I am constantly astonished by how stable this footage is. But there is a problem. The photos, while they are technically very good, if you don't use RAW mode or a separate app, the photos are just plain ugly. There is a horrible HDR look to the images, and I would just love to have the option to reduce that. But to be fair, this is a look that is permeating throughout the entire industry as computational photography gets more and more popular. This is a look that I hate so much that I've actually been carrying a separate camera with me almost everywhere I go now, an Olympus Pen F from 2016. And while this is a camera that is worse in almost every single way compared to the iPhone, it actually produces images that are very pleasant to look at. So maybe Apple should take a hint from brands like OnePlus and Oppo, because I love the look of some of the Hasselblad inspired looks that those phones are able to produce. So now let's move on to something that hasn't been great, the A17 Pro chipset. Don't get me wrong, I still very much do respect it because it is an absolute belter, especially when compared to something like the new Tensor G4 chip on the Pixel 9 phones. The performance of the iPhone is absolutely insane. Not only does it run iOS 17 and 18 for that matter like a champ, but it does do things that no other phone can do, like edit photos and videos with aplomb and play console quality games better than the actual gaming consoles themselves. This level of performance would give this phone so much headroom going into the future, and of course it is great for all of those new AI features coming in iOS 18. But that performance does come at a cost. It simply gets too hot. Don't get me wrong, it has gotten better with updates, but it really isn't great, and it's the single biggest thing that I want the next iPhone to focus on. heat management. There is no point in having the performance of a laptop in a phone if it thermal throttles and freezes after a few minutes of heavy photo editing. There is no point in having insane gaming performance either if the screen dims and the frame rates drop into the single digits after 5 minutes at the beach. According to surveys, this is the biggest issue that people are having with their iPhones at the moment, and this is something that I really do hope that the iPhone 16 tries to solve. Another thing that hasn't been brilliant as well is the battery life. I am a very heavy user and I'm afraid that it's simply not good enough, even on the Max model. The battery is only 4,441 milliamps in size, which is not a lot in this class of phone. The main competitors being the Galaxy S24 Ultra and the Pixel 9 Pro both have larger batteries at around 5,000 milliamps. And I don't see a reason why we can't have something a little bit larger like that to make things better. To make this situation even worse though, is that my battery health has not been great, probably because I love to use wireless charging and MagSafe so much, which generates a lot of heat. After a year, my battery health is down to just 88%, and that means that I have to use a portable wireless battery attached to this almost all the time, which just is not great, is it? On the other hand, what has been pretty good though, as you expect from Apple, is the software. iOS 17 was probably one of the most stable iOS releases that I've used in a while, and iOS 18 beta has been pretty stable too. And thanks to the performance headroom of this chip, from what I've seen of the new AI features that have been released so far, like the notification summaries that I love and the clean-up photo editing feature, the hardware keeps up like no other phone on the market. It's very obvious that a lot of these features are happening on device as opposed to on the cloud because it is very snappy indeed. This processor is amazing at performing in very short bursts, but just don't expect any sustained performance. So in conclusion, how does the iPhone 15 Pro Max rank in my iPhone tier list? I'm afraid that it doesn't quite reach the highs of the iPhone 13 Pro or even the 11 Pro. And those models were near perfect reflections of what an iPhone could be during those times. The 11 Pro especially was god tier, but I feel despite the problems, due to the especially innovative design, that this deserves to be an A tier phone, but not quite an S. So if you enjoy this video and want to see more, including my coverage of the iPhone 16, please give me a like, a subscribe, and comment what you would like to see on this year's phone. Otherwise, I hope that you are having a very lovely day. And on that note, toodaloo.